This is Film Focus with Emily Cook.
In order to create the most believable on-screen worlds, films utilise a number of key elements, including computer-generated imagery, set design and studio builds, but perhaps the most important is the effective use of location. Films that rely heavily on a few key natural locations are able to keep costs down as they reduce the need for set dressing and costly studio rental fees. A natural location that we see appearing time and time again in lower budget films is that of the forest. Low and medium budget thrillers and horror films in particular make use of woodland in their on-screen worlds. The innate characteristics and physical benefits offered by the forest are a real gift to the filmmaker. As far back as Shakespeare's day, literature has presented the woods as a place of mystery, trickery, evil and supernatural events. We see it again in the 19th century with the German fairy tales of the Grimm brothers, for instance in Hansel and Gretel, and the references continue right up into the present day with the likes of the 2004 film Into the Woods and the aptly titled The Forest in 2016. Physically, once under the canopy of the trees, our protagonists find themselves trapped, disorientated and confused within a repetitive landscape of untamed, unruly wilderness. In the most basic sense, the trees and their darkness offer places for the nefarious characters to hide and shelter so that their deeds can be concealed. So now we invite you to follow us, breadcrumbs at the ready, into the deep dark forest as we explore our top 5 examples of when forests have been utilised effectively to generate a sense of fear and tension within a film.
Now you're probably wondering how I ended up in a state like this and how a corporate jolly turns into the sort of tear-up you don't see in the office every day.
Severance, directed by Christopher Smith, is a British comedy horror thriller that tells the story of a group of sales representatives who, while on a team-building weekend in a remote cabin in the forests of Eastern Europe, become the victims of a group of crazed killers who will stop at nothing to see them dead. The film boasts an all-star cast, including Toby Stephens, Danny Dyer, Claudie Blakely, Andy Nyman, Babu Cisse, Tim McInnerny, Laura Harris and David Gilman.
And why did you pick this one, Emily?
Well, with a relatively low budget of an estimated $5 million, I thought the film made great use of the dramatic and atmospheric forests of the Isle of Man, which is where most of the on-screen action takes place. Arguably, the film is rather formulaic and not everyone's cup of tea. No doubt Danny Dyer's involvement might put some audiences off, but I found the film's depiction of location presented an effective sense of impending doom, and an innocent situation very quickly becomes something rather more sinister. The chase scenes through the trees I thought were particularly well shot.
I thought it was really good fun, actually. I watched it years ago and I just remember really liking it at the time. Did you find out any trivia about it?
Well, yes, hilariously. I don't know why I do find it hilarious, but Danny Dyer spent 10 weeks toning up in the gym prior to the shooting, which is quite funny because I don't remember seeing his torso in the film.
I was going to say, was it for that reason?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Hey, Scotty, what's this place like anyway?
Well, the guy that's renting it says it's an old place. A little run down.
The first
but
film I
it's right
chose
up
was
in
The
mountains.
Evil Dead, which is a 1981 American supernatural horror film written and directed by Sam Raimi and exec produced by Raimi and Bruce Campbell, who also stars alongside Ellen Sandweiss and Betsy Baker. The film focuses on 5 college students vacationing in an isolated cabin in a remote wooded area. After they find an audio tape that releases a legion of demons and spirits, members of the group suffer from demonic possession, leading to increasingly gory mayhem.
So why did you select this film, Sarah?
I think it's a bit of an obvious one to choose, to be honest, but it absolutely had to be done for this kind of theme. Even though a lot of the action takes place inside the cabin, the forest definitely plays an integral part to the storyline. The thick expanse of trees hem the cabin in, adding to the secluded atmosphere kind of overall. As anyone who's seen the original movie will know, and I know there's lots of people out there, there's a really unforgettable and quite harrowing scene that takes place in the woods when one of the friends leaves the cabin.
That's quite interesting how basically you've got a group of college students in a cabin in the woods, and similarly to Severance you have a group of work colleagues who don't get on in a cabin in the woods. So it's kind of a formulaic scenario that seems to be repeated out again and again and again. I mean, we could rattle off loads of films that follow that.
But it's obviously because it's very effective and it works.
Yes.
And I think that's why it's continually happening again and again and again. And I personally don't get bored of it. I kind of like films set in the woods.
Yeah, I think people get enjoyment out of formulas as well because they're familiar. It's like when a pop song comes on, you know all the words. You get enjoyment out of that process of familiarity and knowing what's about to happen. Is there anything about the production of the film that you found interesting?
Well, I was quite surprised that the filming began in 1979 with quite a small cast and crew of only about 37 people. The initial shooting finished in 6 weeks only, but it took 1.5 years to edit the picture. It's no surprise really, it's incredible the way it's been put together. And also Joel Cohen was actually an assistant editor on the movie, one of his first roles.
Oh, fascinating. I can imagine how using forests, actually the editing process takes a long time because you don't have any landmarks within the forest. My next film is Takedown from director Jim Gillespie, who's our special guest on this week's episode. The film focuses on the reckless sons and daughters of international billionaires who have been sent by their frustrated parents to an exclusive tough love boot camp on a remote island where they will be taught the basic survival skills in the hope that it will teach them to take responsibility for their lives. When they're taken hostage and held for $1 billion ransom by a group of sophisticated kidnappers, the young captives suddenly need every ounce of their brief training to survive. The film stars a bevy of gorgeous, talented young cast, including Ed Westwick, Jeremy Sumpter, Phoebe Tompkin, Ashley Walters and Dominic Sherwood. The film's trailer has just surfaced actually, so please watch out online for the film's UK release date later this year.
Why did you choose this one?
I had the pleasure of working on Takedown when it was shot in 2014, so I had first-hand experience of being on location for the shoots. The majority of the lighthouse scenes were shot in Wales, whereas the quarry, cliff face, beach and of course forest scenes were all shot in the Isle of Man. Over the fortnight of shooting, the film shot in several different Manx woodland areas, including Bluff and Solby Glen. The steep plantation floors made for a physically strenuous experience for both the cast and crew and reflect well on screen. The nature of the forest provides several perfect opportunities for ambush scenarios. I thought it was interesting that the woodland sequences in Takedown, as opposed to in Severance, house more action sequences rather than horror.
Yeah.
My interesting bit of trivia about Takedown, linking to last week's industry topic on women filmmakers, is that the producer was actually a woman called Sarah Black, and she's a really lovely woman.
Oh, awesome. Good to see the ladies doing it for themselves.
Exactly, as Beyonce might say.
The next film I chose was Battle Royale, which is a Japanese film directed by Kinji Fukasaku, using a screenplay written by his son Kenta, and stars among others Takeshi Kitano, who is probably best known for the TV show Takeshi's Castle.
I love Takeshi's Castle.
Oh, who doesn't?
It got me through my A-levels and probably my GCSEs.
It's just silliness, isn't it?
It's bizarre.
It's brilliant. The film tells the story of a junior high school student who is struggling with the suicide of his father and who is forced by the government to compete in a deadly game where the students in his class must fight to the death, with only the sole survivor being allowed to live.
So what was it about the forests in this film that made you select it?
I think it's very similar to films like Takedown or the Hunger Games franchise, but it actually predates all of them. The novel the film was based on was actually published in 1999 and was seen as very controversial at the time, probably obviously because of the government being involved in these decisions and the fact that it's quite horrific what they're making these kids do. The forest setting is actually used both as a sanctuary for the characters and a place where surprise attacks can be staged and traps can be constructed. So the environment is much more functional than atmospheric, in other words. So again, what's similar to what you were saying about Takedown, yeah. I'd say Battle Royale is a beautiful blend of action, horror and thriller, so I definitely urge anyone who's not seen it to check it out. It's brilliant.
Okay. I will do. Do you have any interesting facts about the director of this film?
The director actually celebrated his 70th birthday during the production, but he unfortunately passed away 2 years later during the production of the sequel Battle Royale 2 from 2003, ending a 40-year career in the director's chair.
What a fantastic slate of films to have left behind. My final film is Camera Trap from writer-director Alex Werner. Camera Trap's a natural history documentary-style horror thriller about a British wildlife film unit set in the depths of Central Asia. Using the latest in camera trap technology, 4 filmmakers go on search of a rare Amur snow leopard. What they discover is something far more terrifying than they expected.
This sounds so interesting, this one. Dare I ask why you selected it?
It really is interesting. I worked on the film in 2013, creating all of the DVD extras and the EPK electronic press kit. And this is actually the third film we're focusing on, which was shot in the Isle of Man. The film has the same producer as Severance, Jason Newmark. Unlike Severance and Takedown, however, Camera Trap makes use of the forest at night time, displaying it in a variety of eerie ways. The USP of this film actually is the fact that they use various camera technologies, state-of-the-art infrared cameras, handheld diary cameras. There are parallels there you could draw with the Blair Witch Project in style perhaps. Head cameras, body cameras, GoPros, camera traps which are triggered by movement, and the Starlight camera, which is one that's hung up in trees and gives a bird's eye view.
Oh, I'd never heard of that one.
The use of darkness in conjunction with the camera footage that excludes a great deal of information from the frame plays on the audience's fear of the unknown. It's in Camera Trap that the location of the forest at night really shines. Who knows what's lurking behind the trees?
How can I get hold of the film? Because I'd not heard of it at all before or seen any trailers.
Well, interestingly, it is actually now available on iTunes. I'll include a link over on our blog. If you search for Camera Trap on iTunes, it should come up.
And was there any trivia that you thought the audience might be interested in for this one?
There was so much on this because I created a production notes document that actually helped sell the film. This is the document that actually goes to Fox, goes to Universal, goes to all the distributors to say this is what this film is about, and it's a really long document, so I kind of know it backwards, but I thought it was really interesting on a very basic level how they matched up the forests in Nepal, where half the film was shot, with the forests in the Isle of Man.
And you think they wouldn't be able to do that at all because they're so different?
Completely different trees, completely different landscapes, different weather, but it's amazing what the human brain will allow. So they'll cut from one shot of them entering the forest and from behind, and then the shot of them approaching the camera from within the forest. They're completely two different forests. Wow. It's absolutely fascinating.
I definitely want to download that one and check it out just to see how well that's blended, and by the sound of it, it's amazing. So we hope you can see the woods from the trees now. You'll find much more on this topic, including trailers, posters and links to the film on our blog. Links will be in the video and audio file description box.
Thanks for listening to Film Focus with Emily Cook. Happy movie going!